they are locking down the planet. At the same time, and I hate to get hokey, but they're pushing this UFO stuff pretty hard. And it's funny that you said, since we're telling stories, because I was showing the article right when you said that about the US Navy claiming they have the patents on tech to engineer the fabric of reality. That means make you believe whatever you want to believe.
A teen who was behind the $100,000 cryptocurrency scheme has been sentenced to prison. Graham Ivan Clark was 17 at the time he hacked 100 high-profile Twitter accounts and used the funds to scam 6 figures worth of cryptocurrency from people around the world. Some of the accounts that he was able to hack: Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Apple, Uber. How difficult would it be for a determined hacker to hit other accounts? And by using a virtual private network, it grants you an extra layer of internet protection by allowing you to browse anonymously. You can head over to virtualshield.com, and in the download tab, I'm going to choose Firefox. And click Install Now to add the Virtual Shield add-on. It's just that easy. And get started with your free 30-day trial. Install it, click Connect. You'll see the shield turn from red to green. And you'll see how, from my initial service provider, I was able to even change my IP. Virtual Shield Network protected. Get Virtual Shield for 50% off today by going to virtualshield.com/adapt2030 or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video. I've had a couple conversations with people, and they're like, yeah, we really need to put our food in full production because this is it. This year it comes. Tidal Wave upon us. Ransom, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on. I've been doing my own little farming experiments here. I have a bunch of these plastic buckets outside and all kinds of stuff sprouting. At the beginning of this cold season, when there was a snowstorm, one bolt of lightning struck like right above my house, and it made a big old orange flash at the end of it. But it didn't come all the way to the ground. It just stopped at the bottom of the cloud level. It was really bizarre. And then this big old thunder followed it, of course. We don't see too much lightning in wintertime around here.
Yeah, and for those of you out there that follow my work on Adapt 2030, I have some new timelines that I'm putting out right now for the intensification of these extreme weather events to continue to amplify. This is it. This year is the rollover year, and if we're already getting these types of extreme cold across so many regions of the planet, thunderstorms and in winter, and just such a mix-up in the jet streams, you're going to start to see and be more prepared than usual. That's all I'm going to say is the extremes are going to get much more extreme, and I can also see with the government overreach and things happening right now to lock down people, it seems that they're going in lockstep. So one for me is validating the other, to know that these natural disasters and the earth slips and landslides, sinkholes, et cetera, and all these kind of things that are going to start breaking our infrastructure in terms of roads, pipes, bridges, and rail lines is really in earnest starting to ramp up. So at the same time, governments anticipate shortages, so they're going to try to control the citizens more preemptively. So I'm using it as a gauge with my solar timelines coming out with these extreme earth changes and the amount of government control that's being put out there at light speed.
It is at light speed. And I have a whole little list of stories here that reflect how crazy it's really getting. Here we are. That crazy guy is now right. And starting off with being able to travel anywhere. You know, they're trying to put rules in for interstate travel right here in the United States. And then trying to travel internationally, just like we said at the beginning of this pandemic. You're not going to be able to go anywhere without government approval.
Yeah, you know, the one thing about this grand solar minimum, since the beginning of it, I mapped out in terms of history, every 400 years, it's a significant event and a reset of history, a reset of economy, a reset of government, just the way that society operates. So I just delved back through history for quite a bit and went back to, say, 2400 BC on these 400-year intervals in the last 6 of them to see what would happen. And routinely, every single one of these, population migration, economic stagnation, collapse, and then a reformation of a new economic system. And then government collapse as well. That comes up with a new system of governance. So for me, coming into this grand solar minimum and knowing that we could move much faster because we can get on an airplane now, we're not going to load our cart with the oxen. It takes a lot longer to travel across Europe with an oxen cart than it does to get on a train or in a bus or in a car. So I was saying that they're going to lock the planet down, and I didn't know what the fashion that meant, lock the planet down, but that's 1 already out of the 3. Now we're starting to see the economic collapse come in. That's 2. And then the last one would be governments completely collapse across the planet, or they let you think they collapsed, and then they institute a new system with them still in control, of course. But there's a morphing into a new way for society. I don't know if it's the cosmic rays that allow the human to think differently, so they have to readjust how the farming techniques here on Earth can be adjusted for the new thinking human, and then they call it a new governmental system. Because there's always a shift with the ages here with the light from the sun and from the magnetism from the sun. It shifts into a new governance system, but I think that the powers that be know where the mind is going to shift. I think they have all the cycles mapped out, and they know the energy shift, where this resonance frequency is going to reset itself. So they have a new system in place for the new resonant frequency. Locking the planet down.
Right now, avenue of freedom of traveling is an automobile. So if you're not driving yourself now, you're going to have to go through these systems. They are locking down the planet at the same time. And I hate to get hokey, but they're pushing this UFO stuff pretty hard. And it's funny that you said, since we're telling stories, because I was showing the article right when you said that about the U.S. Navy claiming they have the patents on tech to engineer the fabric of reality. That means make you believe whatever you want to believe, I guess. So the U.S. Navy has patents on tech. It says will engineer the fabric of reality. UFO patents. In this article, they're saying, well, it sounds like science fiction, but the Navy's saying, no, it's legit. It sounds like, if you remember, Cheney had an interview one time and he said that exact thing. We'll tell you what reality is. So I think you're going to have to take travel into your own hands. And then all of a sudden they're going to tell us, you know what? You can't drive anymore because you have to get an electric car that causes, the use of more fossil fuels to run it. But you're going to have an AI-driven electric car, or you won't be able to go anywhere. You might be able to buy special insurance so you can drive a gasoline-powered dangerous machine. If you've ever seen that movie I, Robot, they were talking about how the gasoline-powered engines were dangerous and banned because they might explode with all that fossil fuel. And it's really zooming around making plant food, I guess. That's why they don't like the combustion engine, really.
It's interesting you said the reality thing, because Biden just come out and talked about appointing a reality czar. And here the word czars again. Remember, like climate czar. Who's this bozo here? Who's the Kerry? Put it into context here. This whole czar word ships back again. It's a lexicon. Think about the words. A czar. Obviously it's an elitist aristocrat that has authority over you. It's something czar. Anyway, he comes up. Somebody asks him, "Why are you flying all these private airplanes when you're the new climate czar and you've been flying all these private miles?" And he's like, "Well, I will offset it because I'm important enough that I have to fly by myself." And if I was there, I would have said, "What do you mean offset?" Because putting such a dangerous all-ending extinction level event gas in the air, you put the extinction level event, all this gas in the air. I don't care if you offset or not. You put the bad gas in the air, you bad flyer. And they're like, "No, we can offset it." So it's not really a threat if you can offset it, now is it?
No. It's a managed thing, just like everything else.
Because everything's happening at lightning speed. And the reason I keep bringing up this lightning speed, the way it's happening, but these earth changes, this magnetic field coupling and intensification is going to come so fast, it's going to be a 300-mile-per-hour wind gust coming through that you don't see, and it's suddenly here. And the earth changes that are coming this summer, especially when we transition seasons, I think this will be the first year that we're going to see the extremes, maybe not plasma displays in the skies this year, but something very strange and unusual to the point that it'll spook the populace this way come, this year, naturally. And I'm really very convinced now that this military control and governmental control and social media control and all this kind of control is directly related to how intense these earth changes are going to be starting right now. So for me, with the intensity they're ramping everything up on the control side means that I'm looking for a super gigantic, unbelievable uptick in the amount of earth changes that's going to shock the psyche of the world.
What about hungry bellies? I was just showing over an argument of 4 federal note reserve pieces of paper. The majority of the Kroger's staff quit. So they're going to have to close 25% of their grocery stores. So there's one less option of food, and you're going to see more and more of this for different reasons. Companies replacing their employees with robots. And then people are going to have problems with the customers when things start being short on the counters. That's when people start getting a little snide and, you're always out of this, and they get mad because they don't get their favorite thing. Sooner or later, people aren't going to want to deal with it because they'll be accusing the stores and the employees of hoarding the food when in reality, they're just not getting that much anymore. Stuff like that's going on all over the place. At this point, there should be no reason that you don't have backup food. That's just something that everybody's going to have to eventually need. And you know what? Even if you didn't use it, ain't that wonderful? I mean, but I don't think so. I think you're going to have to use it.
Yeah, and I keep coming back again with these new series of videos I've been doing with more live talks. Going to your local farm co-op, which is in every single county across the United States. Every county has one. And going in there and buying 50-pound bags of winter wheat, hard red winter wheat. That's the stuff they grind to make flour, but they grind it in a factory and they charge you like 8 times higher price for their favor of grinding you some flour. And I'm like, wait a minute, why don't you get a hand ground grain mill or an electric one? Buy the 50-pound bags. There's soft white wheat, there's hard red winter wheat, you got barley. You could probably do sorghum in that as well. You can use millet. Rye is another one, age old. And you can make your own flours to make your own breads, pastas, and different things. This is the way you should also be thinking. Because people might be terrified that the store runs out of flour, but I would be saying, oh, I don't care. I have 200 pounds of hard red winter wheat in 50-pound bags that I could sprout for wheatgrass, heavy nutrition. And what I don't eat after I cut that layer of green grass off, I can throw to the chickens out back. And they love that root structure. So there's so many options here of grinding your own flour. Now, really, that's the way we're going to have to start thinking is pioneering lifestyle, bulk buying, and doing some of the processing that you relied on a factory to do, that you're going to have to do it in your home.
Reality's changing on people fast. And then when I see this thing, and I'm going to go back to it, the Navy's saying, don't worry about it. We have patents that will engineer the fabric of your reality. So, to what extent do they mean by designing our reality? If we're locked up and we're not allowed to grow food, and you're not allowed to have people over, and you're not allowed to talk to people, and you're not allowed to even show your face, what are we doing?
And not allow the older generation to communicate with the younger generation, to pass on the ideas, the ideals, the common sense, the possible tricks that they had used to escape hardship or whatever, because a lot of older people in the United States immigrated from other countries in this last couple generations, especially after World War II. Older people who you want to talk to, they know a lot of tips and tricks to keep you alive. They have a lot of common sense because they lived through a bunch of the BS. They've seen an enormous amount of overthrows of governments with communists coming in. and they can teach the younger generation to beware, look out, and here's a way you can survive. And you notice how that entire generation has been locked up where they can't even communicate with younger kids. They can't communicate with their own grandkids. They want them completely walled off from society because they're afraid of their thoughts passing into the younger or Midian generations here, because they are the last bastions of common sense, hope, and understanding what the real world was like before this fake reality is. They're terrified of that. Elites are terrified of that knowledge being passed from the elderly down to the young. It's a coordinated effort to erase that knowledge out of our society as fast as humanly possible. First, to cordon it off. It's almost like a siege. You block it in, you block it off, you block off the city, and you camp outside and you wait for those people to run out of supplies. It's truly mind-boggling that this is allowed to happen in our country. And it's not just ours. It's a global thing to remove the older population. That it is becoming a movement across the globe of people waking up that I never thought would wake up and going, damn, there's a huge problem right now. What is going on with all this? And a lot of people are asking a lot of questions that never asked questions before. And in the eyes of the globalists, that needs to stop immediately. Immediately.